This is an informational review about the Kingston Mobilelite Wireless G2. There's a bunch of videos about how it works, how to get it to work, so that's not what this is about. But in my research and trying to find out information about it, I couldn't really find the information I was looking for. So I went on Amazon, looked through the Q&As, and I got some other ones in addition to my own that I am going to address in this informational review. So first off, it is essentially like a computer in the fact that it transfers information from one device to another, but you don't need to lug a laptop around. In my case as a photographer, that's really handy because I can take the images off my SD card and I can put them on a flash drive or even portable hard drives, and it works with both solid state and spinning hard drives. Now, as far as hard drives themselves go, it supports your basic or most used hard drive formats. It'll do FAT, FAT32, NTFS, and exFAT. It will not support Mac formatted hard drives, unfortunately, but from my experience it hasn't really seemed to matter because it uses a USB 2 port anyway. It's not going to be transferring things that fast, and with the fact that it doesn't do copyrighted material such as iTunes movies, you're not going to need a larger than 4 GB file restrictions that's on the FAT32 format anyway. Now, as far as copying information from one device to the other, I took 10 raw images, which are on my DSLR, which is a Canon. It is a CR2 format, and the mobile application does not read those, but in my case it doesn't necessarily matter. I just needed to copy them from one to the other. So I took 10 images from my camera and I put them on the SD card and copied them to both my flash drive as well as my secure solid state hard drive, and the results were about the same. I took all 10 of those files, which averaged about 30 megabytes each, and it took 1 minute and 15 seconds to transfer them. So it's going from a SanDisk Ultra, which writes at about 40 megabits a second, it reads and writes about that, to a USB 3 flash drive, but again, it's only using USB 2 because of the USB port on the device itself. But it took 1 minute and 15 seconds. So in my case, all I'd have to do is select all the images that I want to copy and leave like my iPad or my phone next to it and just copy them. And it's just a matter of letting it do its thing. It's really simple. And it was a little weird going from the USB device, or the flash drive, or in the case of the solid state drive, it transferred it faster going to the memory card than it did coming from the memory card. Same 10 files, same average, same size, all of it. It took 43 seconds. It was kind of weird, but regardless, it doesn't matter. It did its thing. It copied them all without any problems at all, and that was the end of that. It could be the SD card that's the problem, but to be honest, I don't know. I mean, this thing reads at 400 megabytes a second and it writes at 300. And it had the same problems, but again, it's USB 2 limited, so I honestly have no idea why the read and write speed was different time-wise. And along those same lines, a question that I had personally was whether or not you could leave your mobile device on and say walk away from the G2 and have it still copy the files over. And the answer to that question is no. You have to keep the mobile device on and within range for it to sustain the transfer. But it's not that big of a deal. You can either just flip your phone around and have it facing out of your pocket so your leg doesn't mess with anything, or if you want to leave it with your device, say for instance as a photographer, leaving it in my bag or something and just let it do its thing, and it'll copy all the files over and you won't have to worry about it. Another question that I had personally was whether or not a USB hub would work, and again the answer to that question is no, it doesn't. It will recognize the first device that's plugged in, but it won't do more than one device. And in some cases, it would even switch to the most recent device that was connected. So I would have one hard drive plugged in, I'd wait a minute or so, and then I plugged the second hard drive in, and when I went on the mobile app to see what I could do, it would only show the second one. So it doesn't do it If you were using it as an extension, it'd be easier to just use an extension and it'd be less bulky. The one that I used had a card reader built into it, and the card reader didn't even work. It was just the USB ports. So that was another bummer. Another question that I had found on Amazon was whether or not it would work as a standalone card reader. And yeah, it does. If you plug it into your computer but keep it off, the device off completely, it will act as a standalone card reader. So you could have a USB port and an SD card slot. If your computer doesn't already have one, it does work. And with it on, it can do transfers as similar to a network attached storage device, but it's not really all that reliable. So something else that I wanted to do was to show you as a NAS device, a network attached storage device, how fast it does transfers. And to be honest, as I'm about to show you, it's not all that fast. These are about 25 to 30 some odd megabyte files each, and there's only 2 of them that are being transferred. And as you're going to see, it's taking quite a while to do. A lot longer than if it was just directly connected. So in this instance, if you had big files, I would recommend just unplugging whatever device it is you're using to copy files to, and just plug it into a computer and do it that way, and then unplug and put it back in the G2. But if you're doing small document files, this shouldn't be that big of a deal because they don't take long to transfer anyway. And there, see, that's how long it took. Kingston themselves say just having the device on and streaming, whatnot, the battery life will last about 13 hours. I did my own test with that, and I had a flash drive, the SD card, and I had 3 devices connected to it, and the battery lasted about 12 hours. So that's very close. If you attach a solid state drive, it'll probably keep it very close because there's no physical moving parts in a solid state drive. But if you were to attach a regular spinning disk hard drive, it would definitely lower the use time on the G2. And if you're charging your phone, again, it's going to cut it down a lot. Especially my iPhone 6, I think it's about 25 or so 100 milliamp hour battery in the iPhone, so it would be charged, if this was off and not being used, it would be charged 2 times, and then when it's on, it would lower that even more. The camera that I'm using for this is a Canon 70D, and it has built-in Wi-Fi, so going from it to your phone, it'll connect to your phone and transfer pictures, but it doesn't transfer movies to your phone. For my iPad, I have an adapter that will let me plug in my SD card and copy the pictures that way, and that works. But this will let me do it as well. It will let me take the pictures from this, but it will also let me do the movies, as it supports just your basic QuickTime MOV files, MP4 files. It'll do your documents as well, but in this case, if I plugged the memory card into the device, I could actually copy straight from the memory card to my phone a video. So, I mean, it would be limited to the transfer speed of the device, which I've found is about an average of about 5 megabytes a second, but it does do it. So if you have a short 20-30 second video, it will do it. And for Instagram users who like to have nice looking videos that phones can't necessarily reproduce, that's a great feature. You won't have to use an iPad for it. You can use your phone and then do the Instagram or whatever. Another question that I had was how to figure out how much battery life is left on the device. And there's a couple different ways. The mobile app itself will show you a color code system with a battery in the settings to tell you what it is, and on the device itself it has a 3-color light, 3 being red, orange, and green. And red when it's 25% or lower, and even when it gets to about 5% or so, it will blink. and then orange being from 25 to 50%, and green being from 51 to 100%. And while it's charging, it gives a steady blink, so that way you know it's actually charging instead of discharging. And as for the mobile app itself, it's not that difficult to find. Google Play has it, iTunes has it. You just type in Kingston Mobilelite and it comes up with the app. Additionally, I wanted to see if there was any other ones, and I found another app called Remote File Manager, and it would read this as a network storage device, and it would transfer, it would do the same thing, but you can't change the settings with that one. Another question that I had personally was the internet pass-through feature, because this will serve as a bridge. It will take your Wi-Fi internet signal and allow you to still use the internet, because you have to have your device transferred or connected to it directly, Wi-Fi. And I did 2 different tests, one during the day with Wi-Fi being used by multiple devices, and then one at night when nothing was using the internet. And during the day, it had a download speed of about 7 megabytes and an upload of 9. And at night, when I did it when nobody else was using it, it was 13 down and 11 up. For a bridge device that's only going to have a couple mobile devices attached to it, that's all right. But as a router, that's not very good. Now, I haven't tested it with the Ethernet connection, so I don't know if these numbers are better or the same. Additionally, I did a test of 3 devices streaming 3 different videos from both the SD card and the flash drive. And claims say that you can stream multiple content to multiple devices at the same time. I tried 2 different times during the day and I couldn't get it to work. It would sit there and try and buffer all of them and none of them would play. Once I canceled the videos on 2 devices, the one that was remaining started to play. I don't know if it's a firmware thing. I don't know if I was doing something wrong. I kind of doubt it, because there's no special instructions that I found to do this, but it just didn't seem to work. Something I would suggest for the Mobilelite Wireless G2 is to pick up a bunch of these little Velcro cable ties. They work wonders. I even put one on the cord that came with it, and even though it's a small cord, it helps keep it together, and especially if you don't want to use the entire cord, it keeps everything together. And then all you need to do is bundle your cords together and use 1 or 2 of these to keep it all in one spot. It's a lot neater, it's tidy, and they work very well. So that's the information that I wanted to share about the Kingston Mobilelite Wireless G2. Hopefully it answered some questions. I know it did for me, because there's not a lot of information about how it works, just that it works. This is how you do this, this is how you do that. But that's not what I was looking for. I wanted to find answers to specific questions. So hopefully they answered some of your questions as well. Thank you. Bye.